Welcome to Leadership Trails, another episode. The story today about the 75% complete disaster when we call the superhero. The superhero arrived too late. And the Leadership Trails story is about when a crisis happened in leadership, delayed decisions, and the myth of Project Savior. So let me tell you about this story. There was a project, very big, mega project, was supposed to open in 6 months. The terminal looked almost like complete from the outside, but the inside, the project was shaky. The baggage system was delayed. The gates were not fully coordinated. Procurement was behind. Engineering changes were still coming. The client was nervous. The airlines were asking questions, and the schedule had so many critical activities that even the critical path needed a critical path. In the meeting room, nobody said much at first. Then one senior manager closed the schedule report, looked around the table and said, "Let's call Farid," which I called him earlier as a superhero. That was the moment everyone knew. This was no longer a normal project problem. This was a rescue mission. This is Dr. Mark Shami. I'm the managing director and professor at the University of California. Over the last 25 years, I have led many successful projects and trained thousands and thousands of engineers and managers and executives all around the world. So today's story is about the danger of turning strong project managers into superheroes and then sending them to rescue projects after the damage has already been done, okay? So the damage has already been built into the concrete, into the schedule, into the contract, and into the culture. In one large construction company where I used to work, that superhero I'm gonna call for now as Farid. He had been with the company for nearly 30 years. He had managed difficult projects, difficult clients, difficult subcontractors, difficult teams, and a few people who probably deserve their own separate risk register. Top management trusted him. Whenever a major project went into serious trouble, let's call Farid. So Farid's phone would ring, and when his phone rang, people knew something was wrong. Not small wrong. Project on fire. Okay? One morning, I saw Farid walking into the office with the look of a man who had just received bad news, but was too professional to scream. He had a folder under his arm, 2 phones on his hand, and the facial expression of someone who had already read the latest schedule update. I asked him, "Farid, what happened?" He looked at me and said, "They called me again." That was all he needed to say. So one morning, I saw Farid walking into the office with the look of a man who had just received bad news, but was too professional to scream. He had a folder under his arm, 2 phones in his hand, and the facial expression of someone who had already read the latest version of the schedule update. I asked him, "Farid, what happened?" He looked at me and said, "They called me again." That was all what he needed to say. So let me tell you about the project that was on fire. In that company where I used to work, they called again meant senior management had identified another project in crisis. This time, it was the airport project. The airport project itself, yes. On paper, the project was about 75% complete. In reality, it was not even 50% complete. And emotionally, it was 150% complete in excuses. Costs were rising. The client was losing patience. Subcontractors were blaming each other. Procurement was delayed. Engineering changes were still arriving. Productivity, you can imagine, was declining. And every weekly report had the same sentence: recovery actions are in progress. The sentence appeared so many times, it almost became part of the project logo. So after a month of warning signs, management finally decided it was time for action. They sent Farid, you can imagine. Not with a large rescue team, but with full authority from day one. Not with all pending decisions already cleared, they sent him with 3 people, a laptop and a serious email and a famous sentence. You have our full support. In corporate language, you have our full support sometimes means good luck, and please do not ask for anything expensive. Farid smiled and said to me, Mark, by the time they called me, the project is not sick anymore. The project is already in ambulance, arguing with the doctor. Few days later, Farid arrived at the site. The first thing he saw was a large sign near the entrance. Safety first, schedule recovery in progress. He laughed and said to me, at least the sign is optimistic. Inside the project office, there was a large whiteboard titled Recovery Plan. Under that title, someone had written Final Version. Then underneath, that word said Final Version 2.0. Then version 2.0 revised, then final version. Then in different handwriting, they wrote underneath, do not use. That tells you something, right? That was the first warning. The planning engineer showed Farid the schedule. It had so many critical activities that Farid asked, which one is the critical path? So you can imagine what the planner said. He looked at him and said, sir, at this point, all paths are critical. Farid replied, that is not schedule, that is a traffic jam. Okay? Then, you guessed it, procurement came in with a list of pending materials. Some items were delayed by 6 weeks, some by 3 months, and one item had been marked urgent for so long that it had become part of the company culture. The construction manager said, we are waiting for decisions. The contracts manager said, we are waiting for instructions. Guess what the client said? He said, we are waiting for progress. And the finance team said, we are waiting for cost recovery. And Farid quietly said, I don't want to laugh here, but the only thing moving fast is the delay. So let me tell you about the myth of the magic cape. The funny thing was that everyone expected Farid to perform magic with magic wand, and some people asked or looked at him as if he had cape hidden inside his briefcase. The project manager said, Farid, we need a quick turnaround. The client said, we need immediate recovery. The regional office said, we need confidence restored. The site team said, obviously, we need decisions. The team said, we need approvals, and the scheduler said, apparently, we need a miracle. Everything appears in the schedule, and cost is money, or time is money, I should say. Farid said, I can help with the first part. For the miracle, please contact a different department. This is the problem with the superhero culture. Organizations delay decisions, ignore early warnings. Under-resourced projects accept unrealistic baselines, postpone difficult conversation, and then expect the experienced person, the superhero, to reverse the laws of time, cost, productivity, and physics. But project management is not a superhero movie. You cannot fly backward around the earth and reverse time. In engineering, decisions were delayed for 8 months. You cannot recover all of them with one motivational speech. If procurement was late by design, not by accident, you cannot fix it with a dashboard. If the team lost trust in leadership, that's a disaster. You cannot rebuild it with one town hall meeting and a box of pastries or donuts. Although, to be fair, the donuts help, okay? Farid knew this very well. He did not walk in pretending to save everything. He started the diagnosis. What decisions were delayed? What constraints were ignored? What commitments were unrealistic? What risks were known but not escalated? What work was reported as progress but had no real production value? Which subcontractors were truly underperforming and which ones were simply logged by the company itself? Within 2 weeks, Farid discovered what many people already knew, but few had said it clearly. The project did not suddenly fall behind. Not suddenly. It had been falling behind quietly for a month. The crisis was not created at 75% completion. It was discovered at 75% completion. That is a very different problem. So let's tell you about the unfixable part. One evening, after a long project review, I was having dinner with Farid, and Farid and I had a very deep conversation that stayed with me. He looked tired, but not defeated. He said, Mark, I can improve the situation. I can recognize or I can reorganize the team. I can push for decisions. I can negotiate priorities. I can remove some constraints. I can recover part of the delay. Then he paused. I think I knew what he was thinking about. He said, but I cannot recover the decision that should have been made a year ago. That sentence is the heart of the story. A great project manager can correct direction, but he cannot erase the consequences of delayed leadership. Farid made changes. He simplified the reporting. He forced daily decision meetings. He stopped unnecessary presentations. He moved the best people closer to the real problems. He separated real constraints from excuses. Then he gave the team one simple rule. Do not show me 40 slides. Show me the 5 decisions blocking companies or tomorrow's work. That became his rule. 5 decisions, not 40 slides. Some people loved it. Some people panicked. One manager arrived with a beautiful 62-slide presentation. Then Farid looked at the title slide and said, this is very impressive. Now please tell me which slide pours concrete. The room went quiet. The manager said, none. Farid said, then let us start with the slide that removes constraints. Slowly, things improved. The team became more focused. Some delayed decisions were finally made, and the client saw more honesty. Subcontractors received clearer priorities, and the schedule became more realistic. Okay? How about productivity? It improved in some areas without a doubt. But there were limits. Some opportunities were gone. Some costs could not be recovered. Some relationships were already damaged. Some claims were already unavoidable, and some delays had already become part of the project's DNA. Farid could reduce the damage, but he could not make the damage disappear. That's clear cut. This is when I realized something important. The true value of superhero is not in rescuing the project after the crisis. It's in helping the organization stop creating crises that require superheroes. So let me tell you about the final part, what we learned as a lesson from this whole story, why many people, or many companies, I should say, love superheroes. They celebrate the person who flies in, works day and night, saves the schedule, calms the client, fights the fire, and brings the project back from disaster. And yes, those people deserve respect, but there is a hidden danger. If an organization depends too much on superheroes, it may stop thinking, or it may stop fixing the system that keeps creating emergencies. This reminds me of the Harvard Business Review article, Stop Fighting Fires, by Roger Bond, which this article warns that organizations can become trapped in a firefighting culture. People rush from problem to problem, but the deeper system remains unchanged. It also connects with a book I read recently. It's called Managing the Unexpected by Mark Week and Kathleen Sutcliffe. One of the important ideas in that book, that reliable organizations pay attention to weak signals before they become major failures. They do not wait for the explosion before asking what went wrong. The real leadership lesson or question here is not who can save the project. The better question is, why did this project need saving in the first place? Why were early warning ignored? Why were bad assumptions accepted? Why was the baseline unrealistic? And why were decisions escalated too late? Why were experienced people not heard earlier? Why did everyone wait until 75% completion to admit what was already visible at 25%? Superhero leadership is exciting. Preventative leadership is less dramatic, but far more valuable. No one makes a movie about the project manager who quietly prevents the crisis through early planning, honest reporting, strong communication, and timely decision, because that's given. There is no dramatic music, no explosion, no cape, no slow motion walk through the project gate. Just a well-managed project. But this is exactly the point. The best leaders do not create a culture where heroes are constantly needed. They create a culture where problems are seen early, discussed honestly, and solved before they become disasters. Farid was a remarkable project manager without a doubt. He's a good friend of mine, but even he knew the truth. He once told me, "Do not send me when the building is already on fire. Invite me when someone first smells smoke." That is the leadership trail takeaway. Do not wait for the superhero. Build systems that reduce the need for a rescue. Listen to early warning. Make difficult decisions early. Support project teams before they are exhausted. Bring experienced people into the conversation before the crisis becomes irreversible. And never confuse late heroism with good leadership. Because in project, the real superhero is not the person who arrives at 80% completion to save the day. The real superhero is the leader who had the courage to act when the first warning signs appear. Before the smoke, before the fire, before someone says, "Call Farid." I hope you enjoyed the story. Please stay tuned on the next story of Leadership Trails, where I will tell you another real story from my experience, or from my friends, what I learned from them. And please also share your comments. If you have heard or encountered similar story or situation, please share it with me, and I'll be more than happy to follow up with you. Until then, have a great day. I'm Dr. Mark Shami, and this is Leadership Trails. Bye.